That was my grandpa. He was very, very important. He wanted people to have products that worked and lasted a long time.
You could pass down a pair of Koss headphones.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pass down multiple Koss headphones if you'd like.
Yeah. Exactly. This is the Said No One Ever podcast, a podcast about things you never knew you wanted to hear about. I'm your host, Martin Moore. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Said No One Ever podcast. I am your host, Martin Moore. We got a very, very special guest on the show for today. He's a film lover, a futurist, a father, and a friend. He's the grandson of the inventor of the world's first SP3 stereophone. He's the guy that found me and gave me my start here at Koss Headphones. Michael Koss Jr., what's up?
Martin, it's happened. We finally did it.
I know.
What have we been talking about?
For all these years, we're like, we got to do a podcast episode together. Now we're finally doing it.
Very exciting. A little nervous, but we'll see what happens.
So why don't you give the listeners a little rundown about like who you are, what it is you do, so that they're familiar with you.
Yeah. So Michael Koss Jr., I'm the executive vice president at Koss Corporation. We make stereo headphones for anybody who doesn't know, and we are the accredited inventor of the world's first SP3 stereo headphone in 1958, as you alluded to.
From time to time, I do that.
Yeah. So, I've lived in Milwaukee pretty much my whole life, and big fan of the area. And like you said, film lover. I went to film school initially.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, in Southern California. Learned the art. Really enjoyed it, but had the urge to come back to the Midwest. Came back. Went to Marquette immediately for grad school, got an MBA, and then right when I was graduating, there was an opportunity to start at Koss, which I took, and kind of the rest has been history. And then I think a few years into that, the two of us met.
How long were you here before? I started in 2017. How long did you were here?
I started in 2010.
Okay, so you were here significantly.
Yeah, but I started. My initial job was in operations, doing forecasting and planning. So I was doing a lot of math, a lot of spreadsheets.
That sounds
and then
extra boring.
Eventually moved to marketing, and then kind of products and marketing, and now kind of where I am now.
Sweet, I love it. I mean, I knew most of that, but the listeners don't, so it's nice for them to sort of hear it for you. So one of the things that like I've always loved about you, and probably why we get along so well together, and why you're today's guest, is because like you appreciate intelligent conversation. Like you're a deep thinker, you appreciate nuance, and I really enjoy sort of like your level of thinking and discernment that can kind of like foster opportunities from just like casual conversations. So like every week here at Koss, we do this sort of like brainstorming session where we sit down like the whole group and we like talk about things and try and come up with like ideas or marketing strategies or new products. And the other week, you had sort of initiated a conversation about creating a new headphone category called hybrid headphones, which basically sort of like categorized all of our wireless headphones that like you can use like Bluetooth, or if the battery dies or like dies completely, you can still plug them in and use them. And like I thought that was a great like marketing idea, and it really sort of brought to light just how intentional we are here about like creating products that last and don't end up in a landfill. And sort of that idea and that like ethos kind of fostered this podcast episode, which is called Are We Still Building Things That Last? And so I just kind of want to like get into this whole conversation on planned obsolescence and building things that last, because, for me, it feels like so much of what we buy and consume and wear and use is disposable, whether it's like a printer or a smartphone, t-shirt, even like Instagram reels in movies, all feels very engineered for like quick sales and ad rev, and to just keep us in like this perpetual buy cycle. So I guess my first question for you is, why does, or do you feel like a lot of the products in clothing and electronics and media we buy and consume in today's world are disposable, or are they just not built to last? Like, do you think we kind of live in a world now where everything is just disposable and ends up in a landfill?
Well,
that's a long question.
That's a good question. I want to be careful, though, and not accuse anybody of doing anything negative or wrong. But I do have that feeling. I mean, I think it's hard not to have that feeling,
Right.
especially in this day and age, that you're buying something that kind of has an expiration date.
Yes.
And I don't think historically that's been something that we've done as a society. A lot of things typically last really long, and we're used to that. But I mean, it's remarkable to me still, and it's pretty much everything you can think of has become the lifespan has become much shorter,
Right.
and much quicker to wind up in a landfill.
Yeah.
And I've had a problem with that a while. I mean, I like things that last personally. I like things, and partially that's due to there's a higher quality, obviously, but there's something about it too that ingrains the use that you've used it for a long time, and it becomes an heirloom or something like
Yes.
that, where it's a useful tool in your life that you can pass on or use, give to other people that can continue to be used. Whereas now it just seems like more and more stuff you just get comfortable with just tossing it and buying a new one. And
on Amazon.
I've not gotten comfortable with it, but I feel like society in general has gotten a little bit more comfortable with kind of that.
And it's not even just, for me, it's not even just like tangible things. Media, like I know we have different views on like Instagram Reels and TikToks, but like for me, like I feel like movies now, like people aren't going to be watching like Shrek 10 like generations from now. Like music is just pumped out as singles instead of albums, and like Instagram Reels and TikToks are just this throwaway content that lasts for 24, 48 hours, and then no one's going to watch an Instagram Reel 10 years from now the way that they watch maybe an old YouTube video even for some sort of comparison. Like, do you feel like media and content and movies sort of falls into that same throwaway disposable culture that actual physical tangible products do?
Well, the movie industry is a really interesting one. I at one point in my life very much wanted to be a part of that, or was interested in being a part of that. I learned a lot more of it and realized it maybe wasn't for me. But I'll tell you, it has changed from my perspective considerably. If you think about it, years ago, when you looked at the Oscars, a great example is the Oscars went from 5 of the best movies of the year now to 10.
Yeah.
And that's partially because there's all these massive blockbusters that were getting no recognition. It's similar to like the Grammys, for instance. Are the Grammys really rewarding the best, or are they rewarding the most consumed?
Right.
And
I like that.
Yeah. Oscars have kind of shifted a little bit more that way as well. I mean, the Oscars, a lot of the times, you had to go do a little research to make sure you were able to see the 5 movies that were nominated for Best Picture. Whereas now it's like, you see commercials for those movies, and they're very, very well known or marketed. So I feel like there's a bit of the craft that's kind of faded away due to its inability to be, as marketable as some of the more blockbuster type things, or the more easily consumable things. And I totally agree with you. I don't see a lot of classics being made anymore. Classics,
they're far and few between,
and it's hard. I don't want to get a little bit older, and I don't want to sound like somebody who's harking on the youngers. But you listen to some of the music and you watch some of it, and you say, I don't understand how this is. I understand how for certain people it will be a classic, but I don't know how it will be a cultural classic.
Sure. And
something that will really kind of resonate the way that certain things do, some of the most classic movies of all time do still today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it is, you're right. I mean, it's
like, what are the Jurassic Parks and the Goonies and the Matrixes and like those kinds of movies, the Saving Private Ryans, like what are those, they come out, they're far and few between, but they're not as ubiquitous as they were back in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s, like when we grew up. It felt like, I had sent you an Instagram reel, what was that, a couple months ago, where it was like, these were all the movies that came out. It was like, I don't know what year it was, 1994 or something. And it was just like banger after banger after banger after hit. And I was like, man, if we got one of those. I haven't been to a movie theater, and I saw the Taylor Swift, her new album thing. That's the only movie I've been to since Oppenheimer. And it's just like, there's just nothing. It's all throwaway remakes, for I think it's just cash grabs. And it's unfortunate.
It is. And I don't want to suggest I don't like these kind. I mean,
I don't like them.
I'm a big fan of the Fast and the Furious series because it just is so exciting. I'm not going to suggest any of those movies should be nominated for any awards.
There's
or
a
anything,
franchise that's been milked.
But there's a certain entertainment value that obviously you get from it. But when you think about like these artistic classics, and you know, they're single serving things that are they're not artistic classics that you're gonna, for instance, hang in a museum in the future, right? I mean, some of this stuff is for instant satisfaction, instant consumption, and then people move on and forget about it. You're right. I mean, you see a movie, you had a great time in the movie, a couple days from there, you're not going to think about it. Whereas with like some of the great movies of all time, I mean, I'm a big Terrence Malick fan. You think about those movies for days, months, years, and you continue to think about them, and they continue to kind of work their way through your brain and through your mind. And I don't see that as much anymore with some of these new content, and it's unfortunate. I understand it. I understand, there's a capitalist component to it, and obviously, the old days when I think it was something like, 90% of movies fail and 10% succeed, and the 10% cover the cost of the failed.
Yes.
I don't think the economics aren't the same way anymore, and one of the reasons is, theaters aren't as people don't go to theaters anymore. I'm just like you. I used to go to the movie theater, I feel like once a week. Obviously my life's changed a bit. I'm a little older and I have kids, but it still is like I don't go to the movie theater as much anymore. It's a sad thing, and it's partially due to the lack of content and lack of stuff that I really, really, really want to go see, and it's kind of unfortunate.
I agree. Moving away from sort of like the digital space of throwaway products and content, and moving into the physical space, do you think planned obsolescence is a real thing, where everything we buy and use and consume is engineered with, like you said, an expiration date? Like, do you feel like a majority of the products that we buy, whether it's clothing or a phone or a computer or a scissors?
I do. I have very little evidence to prove it, although I will say I've heard an anecdotal story about a company that's in the consumer electronics space that several years ago went public, and while they were doing their road show to get people to buy the stock, I believe what I was told from somebody who attended one of these events was that they were actually bragging to the attendees that they designed products to actually fail, and they knowingly were designing crappy products. Partially they were just sourcing them. They weren't even really designing or doing much work. They were just sourcing them. And they were bragging that the consumers would just go buy another one as soon as it broke. And that, to me, that was like a punch to the stomach, because we're in the we're in the consumer electronic business, and that's not our intent at all.
No, absolutely not.
As you know, we have a lifetime warranty on the vast majority of our products. And it's not. First of all, we think that they're going to last that long, but also we want to back them and make sure that people understand that we back them.
And we repair stuff too. There's a lot of companies that they won't repair if your battery dies or if something breaks or a cord falls up. Too bad, got to buy a new one. We don't do that. And that's just something that you don't see or hear a lot of in, no matter what it is, whether it's electronics or a piece of clothing or anything. Like they want you. It's designed systematically to be thrown out so that you buy another one and buy another one. They don't want it to get thrown out too soon, because then you won't buy the product again. But if you can get 2 or 3 years out of something and you really like that wallet or that shirt or that phone, that's just how it is. All stuff breaks eventually, and I just buy another one. And so I think I personally believe in planned obsolescence, but I think it's much more methodical than just a word or a catchphrase. I think they're very intentional, and they know the failure rates of certain things, and it's all designed to make sure that your sunglasses crack in a certain spot, and you have to buy a new pair. And I don't know.
I've never considered the fact that there's very likely, with some larger entities, a psychological component where they know if it breaks within this period of time, that's a bad thing. But if it breaks in this period of time, that's an okay thing. I think you're right. I would not be surprised.
Because, so here's an example. I own a pair of Ray-Bans that I bought. They were like $250. Like, normally I bought like cheap $10 sunglasses on Amazon, and they would break within like a couple months. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to buy like nice ones. Bought them. Year and a half in, all of a sudden, like the lens started cracking and cracking and cracking. And then what did I do? I was like, well, I really like them. They lasted longer than the cheap Chinese ones, so I guess I'll buy another pair. Bought another pair for $250. Exact same spot. Crack, 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 like a year and a half later. And I'm just like, I see people with Ray-Bans that are 30 years old or 20 years old. Yeah, and they're fine. So what's changed? Because it's not like they don't know how to not make sunglasses. And so I do. I believe, I don't believe they intentionally, companies just generally build flaws into their products. I think through testing, because I watch us test all of our stuff. I think through testing they'll see things and be like, meh, and let it slide, because they know you don't want to. It's bad business to build something that lasts forever and has a lifetime warranty. You want to sell multiple products to people, and so it's almost antithetical as a business model to create something that lasts and is good quality. And I don't know. I just don't think we see a lot of that in consumer products anymore.
You don't anymore. And then, yeah, you're right. And I will say I have a pair of Ray-Bans that I've had since high school, and they've lasted. Although they're pretty beat up.
Hey,
I don't even think you can see the logo on them anymore. But they have lasted that long. So maybe they were made differently then. But I agree. It's a sad thing, and it's unfortunate, especially when you think about the way things used to be made, and people care you really care for your items, and you really make sure if you spend a lot of money on something, you want to make sure
you take care of it.
You take care of it. You clean it, you wash it every day. Like, that's another thing that I feel like is happening now. It's like the expectation is this thing's going to be dead in 5 to 10 years, so I don't need to care about it that much.
Exactly.
And that probably helps contribute to it dying faster, but that's our consumable society where it's just like move on and buy something new. I really have a hard. There's times where obviously it's really easy to just approach it that way, but obviously it's not the smartest, and I don't think it necessarily is the best for society.
You have to reprogram your brain, really. Here's a question. Do you think, we're talking about products just not having the craftsmanship and longevity in it. Do you think people would really pay for things that lasted, sort of like a made in America ethos, where you knew there was good materials and good quality and craftsmanship and ICQ and like all this stuff that goes into something that lasts, that obviously comes with a price tag? Do you think most consumers would actually pay to have a pair of jeans that's going to last you 5, 10, 15 years, or a TV that isn't going to crap out, a year and a half from now, or a refrigerator? There's one you always hear. If you're a homeowner, the horror stories you hear from people. I bought a refrigerator and 3 years later it died, or my dishwasher. But we buy things because they're cheap and convenient. Do you think people would pay more money for something that would last, or do you think that ship has sailed?
Well, I suspect, and I've never done the research, but I suspect, and this is totally my gut, I suspect if you were to ask somebody, they will tell you that they would. But if you were to actually put it in front of them and have them use their real money, I don't think they will.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges with some of this stuff, and you touched on Made in USA, and there's a lot to unpack. But one interesting thing about some of these things that are breaking earlier than they should be. Like I know people who have a refrigerator from literally probably like the 60s that still works.
It'll be buried in that thing.
Yeah, but what's weird about that is there's still replacement parts that they're able to buy and fix. Yeah, and in some cases they're like scrapping them off old ones in junkyards and stuff like that. What's interesting about, I think one of the challenges with some of the devices today is this consumable society, and we're constantly coming out with new versions of something. So, you have a refrigerator that does this, and 5 years later it does a lot of different things.
Tell you that there's no milk.
They don't make the replacement parts anymore. So in the supply, and also I think the way supply chains are so fractured, where everybody, a brand is sourcing multiple parts from various suppliers. Those suppliers may stop making those parts, or may not have any. They're not just sitting on standby waiting to make parts.
Sure.
That you won't stay in business that long. So some of that stuff doesn't have replacement parts, and it makes it impossible for people to actually repair. And that's a problem too. I don't necessarily. That's a hard one to fix, because there's economically some of these suppliers that are making parts, it's, like I said, not economically feasible for them to just sit around and wait for you to order again, because it could be 5-10 years in the who knows what happens,
spring
right?
or
So
whatever.
I wouldn't. It's obviously a real simple concept, but I think that there's fairly interesting nuances to it that make it harder, and it makes it easier to understand why certain things are the way they are. But it doesn't necessarily justify it.
Sure.
But it makes it, if you think about all these various things, maybe there's a way to do it. And I think one of the ways that certain companies have gotten around this or that are really good at it is they either have complete ownership of their supply chain and they make everything, or secondly, they make a vast majority of things and then they have very, very, very tight control of their supply chain.
Gotcha.
I think there's books written about this, but Tesla's a great example where like they're fully integrated.
Yeah.
They don't make they have a supply chain, but they're fully integrated with a lot of the things. They make a lot of the things that the other car companies, like the big three, wouldn't make, that they source from other places. And the fact that they're the ones who are actually making these parts, they're the ones who are on the hook for making them. It's easier for them to make them, but it's also easier for them to control them and make sure that there's constant oversight, like you said, with quality control and things like that. And there's actual ownership rather than just buying it and making sure it lives up to a specification.
So it definitely feels like repairability plays a part in just like the longevity of stuff. And that's something I didn't even really think about till you brought it up, because it's like, okay, if something breaks, if I can repair it and get another 3, 4, 5 years out of it, cool. So like my Ray-Bans, I could buy a new lens for it. Your car, you could buy a new door panel or something for it. But like some things are just designed to not be repairable. I look at like a smartphone or something like that. Like the batteries aren't like that. They're not designed. The screens are glued on, and there's certain headphones and computers and tablets and all this stuff that they're not designed to be repairable. Like once the LED eyeball on some Transformer toy blows out, like that's it. The product is done. What do you do about that? Because that's a ton of waste. That's a ton of plastic and precious metals and magnets that we just, once something stops working, people just chuck it and it goes in a landfill. Or if they're smart, they hopefully can recycle it. But it's like the amount of waste that comes with this sort of throwaway culture is
it's wild. Yeah, and we're gonna run out of space. I mean,
Nevada's only so big. The desert in Nevada is only so big,
and it's gonna start getting into our water, and it's gonna start getting into our soil. It's not good. But yeah, I think you're right. One way that I sometimes look at things, and it's not everything, and it's an overly simplistic way, but looking at the warranty that the product you're about to buy, that's typically a good estimation of how long you can expect it to fully last. I'm not saying everyone. I think in certain cases, there's certain warranties where you kind of have to do it because there's third-party parts, and you're kind of stuck there. But in a lot of cases, if you look at the way that the brands manage their warranty and they kind of explain their warranty, I think you can kind of understand there's not going to be spare parts past this date.
Yeah.
Like a car warranty is a great example. Like you get a 4-year. In 4 years, there's going to be a totally new model, and they're not going to be making. They're not going to be making spare parts for that anymore.
From AutoZone or something like that.
So I think that's one. Although in our scenario, we have certain products that we can't offer our lifetime warranty on, particularly some of the wireless products, as you know, and that's primarily because they have batteries in them, and the batteries, depending on how the batteries are managed by the individual, those batteries can live for a very long time, or they can be destroyed very quickly, and that's why we kind of have to warrant our wireless products differently than our lifetime warranty.
Yeah.
But I will say, I think even with the wireless program that we had, our warranty program for our wireless products is, I think it's best in the market.
Oh, for sure.
And you know how we handle folks when they come, when they have a problem. So that's why I say loosely looking at the warranty is important, because, but for the most case, I think there's a lot of products just kind of look at it, and if they kind of tell you, here's what the warranty is, I think the best guess particularly for bigger things, best guess is that's how long we expect to have spare parts.
Yeah. No, that's a great metric and gauge for if you're going to buy something, like how long it might last, and how much the company's going to, and the brand is going to back that product up that they're selling you is, how long is the warranty? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 6 months. And it's like, if it ain't a year, I don't know that I want to buy it. And lifetime warranties too are something that, like, I have my work backpack's got a lifetime warranty. Like, doesn't matter. I could run over that thing with the car and they'll give me a new one. And I really appreciate. I personally, there are things that I will pay extra money for, or I'll pay the premium price, the whatever you in air quotes, the made in America price. It might not even be made in America, because it has that longevity or because it has that warranty. It's worth it for me, because, like, I don't want to have to spend all weekend on Amazon looking for a new backpack or a pair of jeans or something for my house or a new refrigerator. Like, I want to buy it once and be done with it.
Like on Amazon's a great example. Like, when I buy stuff on Amazon like crazy, it's obviously the best place to get things. But when I'm looking at it, I don't always look at the information the brand is giving me. What I go look at is reviews, and I go look at pictures, and I see how the people post pictures of, like, how it performs, what it looks like. And you can see some people there's some really good reviewers who are like, show, like, this is how it looks after a couple of months of use. Right. That is super important to me, versus, like, here's
the rubber wear off.
Exactly.
Does, is the plastic crack somewhere? So I just bought this shirt off of Amazon. I wore it once, washed it. I went to put it in the dryer this morning, and when I pulled it out, you know how, like, you pull all your wet clothes out of the washing machine and they kind of, like, stick together and stretch? The whole front just ripped. Like a piece of paper. Actually, I've had paper that ripped less, and I was just like, man, this is a shirt. Like, this thing should last. This thing should fade before, like, it rips like a piece of saran wrap. And I was just like, yep, everything is just garbage today. I don't know. It was infuriating. And it was a cheap shirt. It was only like a $15, $20 shirt, but still, I would rather buy that same shirt because I liked it and it fit well, and pay $49.99 for it and not rip 48 hours after I wear it for the first time.
You weren't buying a single serving shirt.
No, I wasn't.
And if it is a single serving shirt, you mark it as a single serving shirt.
Shifting back to sort of, we've touched a bunch on just the longevity and planned obsolescence of, like, physical products. Switching back to, like, digital stuff, do you think AI, and boy, I'm pivoting, AI is helping artists explore new ways to create and make things digitally, whether it's like art or movies or music, or is AI kind of like quietly rewriting the rules so craftsmanship and longevity no longer matters when making, like, do you think we're going to see the first AI film, and, is AI going to start infiltrating music and written word and books? Like, is it going to just infiltrate everything in our lives so that everything's just sort of derivative and there is no real human creation or craftsmanship or any sort of, like, everlasting longevity to it? Or am I very cynical and pessimistic?
No, well, I think there's going to be a significant change. And if you, like, getting back, talking like movies, I know we were talking about that earlier, like, movies, there was a writer's strike recently, I don't remember when it was, but one of the main points was AI.
That was the
right?
one a year or two ago, yeah.
And it was the use of AI. And at the time, I think people were still kind of trying to figure out what that meant. My belief with AI is not that, AI will start writing movie scripts, but eventually, will there be AI characters? Will there be, will there be a need for movie stars anymore? If you can create a digital movie star that looks identical or looks and behaves and is actually, you could do a lot of testing to figure out to create the perfect movie star. You don't have to worry about insuring that movie star and worried that they're going to get a DUI on Sunset Strip, right? That movie star is locked away in a computer somewhere, and you can make
24/7.
Yeah, and that's like an interesting concept, but it also is like YouTube, I think, created a world where anybody can be a filmmaker. Yeah. Right? TikTok and Instagram Reels, I think, have created this world where, like, people can become filmmakers. Yep. And I like that to an extent, but it's definitely kind of broadening it out. I think it's, in a way, it's helped kind of make it more so people can express themselves in unique ways, when for a long time, if you wanted to be a filmmaker, you had to go to Hollywood and
there was a process to it. There's a methodology to it. So a craftsmanship.
I think this stuff is opened up, but I think it will create a world where it's like, he who knows how to prompt best will be able to write the best script and make the best movie, right? Because that will all you have to do is be an insanely good writer.
Yeah.
Very specific writer.
Yep.
Describe the characters as best you can, and literally throw it into a computer. This is obviously not right away, but if you throw that into a computer, and a computer will make that movie for you.
Yeah.
Which is even scarier to think. You could make a movie. I was complaining about less movies being made. You can make hundreds of thousands of movies per year,
right,
that are based off very, very, very specific niches.
Yeah.
And so there's. Who knows what that will lead to?
Yeah.
I think it'll lead to a lot less classics, obviously.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think it will change things significantly. It remains to be seen if it's good, bad, or whatever. But the change is just it's dramatic, and it's coming so fast.
I think what I worry the most is that AI has been a catalyst, and now the impetus for what I fear will be sort of like the cessation of like just human creativity. That like eventually we're going to get to a point where everything, like I mentioned before, is just derivative. Every movie, every script, every photo, every piece of music isn't going to be some sort of like original thought that was maybe based off interpretation or experience, but it's just going to be bits and pieces of something that was already done before it, thrown into a large language model, spit out as some new movie. But like you said, it's never going to be a classic because someone didn't slave over an idea for weeks and months. And, one of my favorite new movies that just came out is One Battle After Another. And Paul Thomas Anderson spent, 20 years writing this movie, tweaking it, going back and forth and back and forth. You think in the age of AI, some young filmmaker who wants to pop off on YouTube is going to spend 10, 15, 20 years writing a script? No, they're going to throw it into AI. It's going to spit it out. Maybe they'll tweak it a little bit, and then, maybe they'll make a movie, and they'll get a hit because the AI knows what works and what doesn't. That's what I fear with like a lot of the digital stuff and the longevity of it. That's where I get the most nervous. It's a great tool, but I think it's going to just kill creativity and the longevity of just all art forms.
You're right, and I think David Lynch is one of the best about catching the big ideas, obviously through like meditation and stuff like that. But this concept of like ideas are floating all around you, and you can catch them, and they are yours, and you can create them and do whatever you want with them. I don't see a computer doing that. I don't think, it's just a computer will take what it knows and what it's been told, and it will create from that. Whereas I think an individual human, we don't know where our ideas come from. They just come, and I think that organic component going away could be pretty scary, because you're right. It will, by definition, probably be derivative if it's just a computer basing it off of what it knows, right? So you're right. I think that's a scary thought, and it's it hopefully is not the end of creativity as we know it. But
I'm worried that it might be, but I don't know. We'll see. We no longer pass down like watches and music and vinyl albums and all these things that maybe we had gotten from our parents and our grandparents. What does not, things being thrown away, not having longevity and planned obsolescence, all those buzzwords, what does that mean for just like heirlooms and thrift shopping and all that? Do you think in the next 20 or 30 years we're going to have stuff that, we're going to have a Game Boy that we're holding in our hand? Is there something 30 years from now that like we'll look back on and be like, oh, like that lasted a long time and I want to use it again? Or because I look at my Nintendo Switch, once that battery dies, I can't play that the way that I can fire up an old Nintendo or throw batteries into an old Game Boy. You're not going to be going to a thrift store buying 20, 30-year-old cheap Chinese Amazon clothes. So in your opinion, our heirlooms and that sort of stuff, is that something that's just going to fizzle out and die? Is it dead? Well, is there anything you're going to pass on to your kids?
The Game Boy example is interesting because, as you know, Palmer Luckey with his new company, Mod Retro, created the Chromatic.
Yes, which I love that thing.
It's basically a Game Boy that's been made modern. And it feels like it, looks like it. It's amazing. That came out 2 years ago. I think that thing, it has removable batteries.
Yes.
And it uses Game Boy cartridges. That thing kind of it brings hope back to me as far as
Yes.
like consumer electronics. And that company, they're focused on delivering more of those types of products, which I think is awesome.
It is.
We need that. Obviously, it's a massive risk for them, and it's
not cheap.
It's not cheap at all. And he has put a lot into it, and I think it's a really cool idea, and it gets to kind of what you're talking about, where there aren't many things anymore that, and you think about it, what would you like? You know, I know you're an Apple Watch.
I'm not going to pass my Apple Watch down to my nephew.
Your Apple Watch will be bricked. I have 2 Apple Watches, the first series, and one probably a couple years later. The first one I have doesn't work anymore, right? The other thing is like iPhones. Up until recently, I collected all my old iPhones, and like thinking that there was something special. There's nothing special
about it.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe it's special to me in a nostalgic thing, but handing that to somebody and saying, "Here's something that was important to me." It's a rock.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
nothing there, or a paperweight, right?
Right. Yes.
So there's no function. And part of that is like us becoming so digitally dependent, right? Mm-hmm. But that's why it's trying to find little things here and there. Watches are a good example where like I still wear a mechanical watch. I like that.
That's awesome.
But I'm not like obsessed with it or anything, but I think there's something unique about that. But there's a lot less heirlooms. Like I collect pens. That's another good one. I don't use them. I don't collect them as much as I used to when I was a kid, but like a pen would be good. I don't use them anymore because I use like phone or I don't write down a lot. I have a to-do list on my phone. There's no use for pens anymore. So what my kid is he going to know what a fountain pen is in 10 years?
Probably not.
Like it's a wild concept.
I even think about like furniture. Like my wife Jen, she has like this old wooden rocking chair that like her grandma passed down to her mom, and her mom passed down to her. I think my niece has an old like vanity that like one of our aunts or our grandma used or something like that. No one's passing down their IKEA couch or vanity or end table or chair to somebody. Like clothing, electronics. You can't pass down my iTunes library. It used to be you'd have to figure out who am I going to leave all these vinyl albums to, all my CDs to, and that's not going to be something that. So it's just like almost nothing is going to get passed down. I feel like, and what does get passed down probably won't even be usable.
You're right. I think the important, and you're making me think about this a lot. I think it's it shows that it's important for us to emphasize the importance of this, so that we can actually find the things in our lives that are able to be passed down, cherish those things, make it aware to the individuals who may be receiving them why it's important, and therefore we create the heirloom. And it's dependent on us.
Oh, for sure.
Right? And that means caring about the things you have, or at least finding the things that you care about.
And purchasing and spending money, if you can, and you're fortunate enough to maybe spend a little money on something that could be passed down, that might not go into a landfill, and look at it and be like, this is something that maybe my son wants, or my niece or nephew might want, or someone could use. I could at least donate it to Goodwill, and it's not just like a dead product that I just need to chuck in the garbage can,
Exactly.
2 more questions. Is there anything we do here at Koss, because that's where we are, that feels intentional, like when we design our products for longevity?
Well,
I already know the answer to this, but we're just going to yap about it anyways.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we have, I think, one of the best warranty programs in the consumer electronics business, not just headphone business, consumer electronics
100%.
business. We have a lifetime warranty on the vast majority of our products. And I mentioned earlier, we have a slightly different warranty for our wired product or wireless products, and that's due to the batteries primarily. But that is at the beginning of every product we have.
Yeah.
It starts with the warranty. It starts with understanding what we are creating must last.
Yep.
And it must last in our side. We hope for a lifetime, but if not, it must be able to be repaired or replaced or whatever. That's like day one.
Yeah.
We don't go in anything without that understanding. I mean, that everybody who works here, that is like ingrained. That is like a very important part. And I think that was my grandpa. He was very, very important. He wanted people to have products that worked and lasted a long time.
You could pass down a pair of Koss headphones.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pass down multiple Koss headphones if you'd like.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think any product we design, that's important. And whether it's a product with our name on it, or if it's a product that we're making for somebody else, or if it's a part we're making for somebody, we care significantly about its long-term life and quality.
And that's why too, and like our Bluetooth stuff, everything, unless they're the earbuds, but all the over-ear and on-ear stuff, they're designed so that you can plug a cord in, and if that battery is dead and it can't be replaced or something like that, you can still plug a cord in and use that thing for the rest of eternity, And I love that we're so intentional about that, because you don't have to throw our stuff away the way that you do with probably a lot of the headphones people are listening to this podcast on. Those things last 2-3 years, and then you chuck them in the garbage, and then you go buy another pair, and it's like, why? It's such a waste. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of resources. It's infuriating.
Something that expensive and that technologically advanced should not be disposable.
I know, right?
Should not be disposable.
Ugh. All right, final question. If we, and by we I mean society, prioritized making things that last, how would that change the way that we sort of value labor and creativity and craftsmanship? What does it mean to make something that lasts in today's world? I know that's a big question.
It's a big question. Well, I think that there's certain things that just can't. I have the iPhone, the new iPhone, and I'll say this: the last iPhone I had was the worst iPhone I've ever had, and this iPhone I have now is, I think, the best one.
Nice.
I don't think you can make an iPhone that lasts forever.
No.
That's just there's certain technology items in technology that are going to be advancing that you just can't. Right. The problem is they've become such an important part of our lives.
Right.
That everything is flowing in there.
Yes.
So I think it gets back to what you brought up earlier, which is prioritizing the things that you can keep for a long time, and being particular when you're considering purchasing something. Think to yourself, is this something that I want to have last?
Right.
Or is this something, and it's a mindset change, and it's getting away from this kind of comfort with being disposable. But I do think it would be a significant challenge to suddenly start saying everything needs to be made to last. I think ultimately a lot of things would cost more, unfortunately. The furniture thing you were talking about earlier, some of that stuff.
Do I want to pay $6,000 for a couch, but only have to buy it once?
Exactly. Yeah, and pass. I mean, I know of
that's a family conversation.
I know of couches that have been passed down generations. I mean,
right.
That happens, but you're typically spending more on the front end to be able to do that, and that's that's like any financial type thing. I mean, if you want it to last longer, it's going to cost more, right? But there's something about disposability and the fact that it's kind of grown so significantly into lots of different things that kind of makes you feel
it's gross.
It does. It makes
gross.
You feel
it's
a little
so
gross.
Ubiquitous. It's gross.
and you start to think every time I take the garbage out, I'm like, wow, this is going to a garbage. I mean, not necessarily that those things could, they had to go in the garbage can, but it's just you think about that, and then you think about there's products that you spent that had such an important part of your life.
You worked a day of work to buy this whatever, and now it's in the garbage can 3 months later because you cheaped out on a pair of scissors, or you cheaped out on a shirt from Amazon like I did. And now what am I going to do with it? I'm just going to go in the garbage. It's going to go in a landfill. I'm sure there's boatloads of plastic in it, and this brand new shirt that someone made and UPS had to deliver, and there was gas and all this stuff. It's going to go into the ground, and it's going to take 1,000 years to...
And that's a very good point. Sometimes, and we can't do this with everything we buy, but a lot of it, with some of this disposable stuff that you're disposing of that on an annual or couple of year basis, when you actually do the math and say, if I would have bought the expensive one to begin with that lasts forever, and then versus buying every couple of years, it ends up probably being the same amount of money over time.
Absolutely. If I didn't buy the cheap dishes that chipped, maybe I'd have some dishes that lasted 60, 70 years. My parents, all their cups and dishes and everything they got when they were married. They've been married 62 years or something like that. They still use the same cups and dishes. I don't know how many cups and dishes I've went through because they just cracked in the dishwasher or they chipped. I don't know where they got it chipped from, and I had to throw them away and get new ones because they were cheap and it's not made the way,
That, and I will say, I do believe, and I do challenge, and we challenge ourselves to this because we make what we consider a lot of really good value products.
Yeah.
Like, I believe with most products, if you, and I'm saying you, the manufacturer, whoever's making it, focus on longevity.
Yes.
You can make a very good product and sell it for a very affordable price, and not have to sell it for nothing. And because obviously the concept I was just saying, where like you buy something once and then as opposed to having to buy it every couple of years, that means it's a pretty heavy investment on the front end, and not everybody can do that. But those people that are making the ones that go every couple of years, if they really, I think, really spend time focusing on making them last longer, I think they could develop better. I really do.
It's tough.
Sometimes it's like that example I gave of that one brand that was bragging about creating products that they knew weren't very high quality. That would fail in a couple of years. That's not the type of attitude a company should have that's making products for. I mean, that's just sad, and I hope
that's short-term gains. There's no longevity in a business model like that. Like, eventually, the reviews will come in, and people are going to find out that what you make is junk and it doesn't last, and they're just going to stop buying it. And then you're going to have to figure out how to completely redo your business model and build build something that is going to end up costing you twice as much because you wasted all the money on tooling and all this stuff to make something cheap. And I agree. Just from the get-go, just do what we do and talk about how's this thing going to last. Is there, that's one of the really interesting things since I've been here and now being part of some product development stuff. I don't think most people understand how difficult it is to design and engineer and build a product, whether it's a refrigerator or a pair of headphones or a scissors or a scooter. Like, it's tough, and there's just so much stress testing and heat and cold testing, and to make sure things and plastics don't break and metals don't fracture. And it's just like, I don't think people understand the lengths that a lot of good companies go to try and prevent things from breaking so that they do last a long time. And still sometimes things slip through the cracks, and you're just like, how? We spent 2 years. And so I applaud companies and brands that kind of follow suit like we do. And we really care about making sure our stuff lasts and is of quality, and we back it up.
Indeed. Yeah. You say it. That's right.
We build things to last.
We do.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for being on the episode. This is a fun little conversation. We're going to have to do it again.
Martin, it was great. You made it super comfortable. I had a great time. Thank you, and look forward to doing it again.
Hey, where can people find you you don't really post on social media?
Yeah, I have X at mkoss jr. It's probably the blunt place, but I don't post very much. Maybe I should. Maybe this year I would.
We'll
see. Maybe
I
will.
Or Koss.com.
You can definitely find me at Koss.com. Yes.
Oh, thanks, man.
Thank you.